The consensus number one overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft has made his decision. Cooper Flagg just entered the NBA draft. There was actually a lot of speculation about him staying at Duke for another season, but ultimately he makes the sensible decision, quite frankly, and now all these teams that tanked their season away, including my own Brooklyn Nets, wait to see if the NBA lottery falls their way and they get their chance to draft what looks to be a future NBA superstar. But there are two real questions here. One, why in the world would Cooper Flagg have returned to Duke in the first place? Why was that even a possibility? And two, is he actually as good as everyone says that he is? First and foremost, the concept of Flagg returning to Duke was always a little bit far-fetched, but it was something, honestly, he talked about publicly, that he said that he was having a great time at Duke. It was clear that he was enjoying his college experience. He loved his teammates. The team was awesome. Honestly, they should have been in the title game and had a real chance to win a national title. They didn't collapse in the Final Four against Houston. He won Player of the Year. It was a dream college season. And there's more incentive than ever for these kinds of prospects to return to school now. The NIL money that these guys are making in college is crazy. They're making millions of dollars to play college basketball, and his initial rookie deal in the NBA would have paid him more per year than college, obviously, but he's still making a lot of money if he's truly enjoying himself at Duke that much. If he really just loved his experience and didn't want to leave, it honestly would kind of make sense. Also, keep in mind that he was supposed to go to college next year. He reclassed a year and still is just 18 years old, so the concept of wanting to wait around in college for another year isn't all that crazy. But there's obvious reasons to go to the draft as well. You never know what could happen next year in terms of injuries. You just have a weird season. There's a long list of guys that stayed after their freshman year when they should have gone to the league, and ultimately the draft stock went down a ton and they made way less money on their rookie deals than they would have had they left after their freshman season. And also, he's not locked in as the number one overall pick in the class next year. AJ Demancia and others are in that 2026 class. It's going to be a loaded class. So you're really risking the possibility of not going first overall next year. So why would you risk it when you know with 100% certainty that Cooper Flagg is going to be the first overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft? Which brings up the question, why is Cooper Flagg going to be the first overall pick? What's so good about this guy? Really quickly though, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Prize Picks. Now with the NBA playoffs going on, now is a fantastic time to get into Prize Picks because they've got all kinds of different promotions going on during the week. I have my own promotion as well where you use code SPORTING and get $50 instantly when you place your first $5 lineup. So make sure you guys use that code and click that link. But you also can take a look at Taco Tuesday, Flex Friday, in addition to free squares that they love to put out during the playoffs as well. The NBA playoffs is a great time for Prize Picks. If you've never played before, all you do is you go throughout and look at these numbers and you pick more or less for each of these numbers and put together your selection. And if you're correct, you win some cash. And like I said, you can use that link and use code SPORTING for an instant $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. And you can look out for all of those promotions as well. The NBA playoffs and Prize Picks is the place to be to add a little bit more fun to your watching experience and try and win some cash as well. Again, if you guys are interested, make sure to click that link. And thank you again to Prize Picks for sponsoring this video. Now back to Cooper Flagg. He's a little bit of a hard prospect to evaluate, and I've seen a lot of misconceptions out there about him because frankly, he's not a super polished scorer. He's not an overly flashy offensive player, and people don't really see him when they watch him as this overly dominant kind of guy. It's not like a Zion Williamson kind of guy that's just running you over as an athlete who was awesome as a freshman at Duke. He's not a Kevin Durant style smooth scorer getting to the mid-range. The jump shot looks so fantastic all the time, and you look at the guy and you immediately like, yeah, he's going to average 30 points a game in the league. He's not one of those kinds of guys, and he's not an Anthony Davis kind of player either with this awesome skill set as a big, as a legit 7-footer, a future defensive player of the year caliber guy at the 5. He's not any of those kinds of players. All of them had amazing freshman seasons. All of them won National Player of the Year awards as freshmen, as did Cooper Flagg, but he's not really any of those kinds of style of player. But having said all that, in my opinion, he's one of the best draft prospects of the last decade. Why? Well, one, you have to always account for how young this guy is when you talk about his accomplishments and his play on the floor. He's unbelievable for his age. He's competing at such a high level despite being so young. That goes back to the Team USA stuff leading up to the Olympics in the summer where he was legitimately competing with real big-time NBA players. The actual Team USA team that goes to the Olympics, they're all extremely impressed with what is still an extremely young Cooper Flagg at the time. And he showed up and, as I said, had had a Zion, an Anthony Davis, a Kevin Durant level freshman year, winning National Player of the Year awards as a freshman, which really doesn't happen except for those guys that I've already mentioned. A lot of the times when you're a top prospect, you're going to go first overall, second overall. We're projecting a little bit what you're going to be at the NBA level. One, because you're so young and you're going to develop, but two, because you're not developed enough as a player to have that high level of an impact as a freshman in college. But Flagg actually showed us a level of dominance that we're just not used to for a player his age. We're not really projecting as much for him because he's just that good, even given how young he is. He was the best player in college basketball as an 18-year-old, which levels you up as a prospect, in my opinion. The next thing, of course, is the athleticism. I think people actually underestimate him as an athlete. He's so fluid in terms of his body control and his movement. He can make plays with both hands. He can stay in front of guys on the perimeter. He explodes at the rim. He's a really, really difficult guy to guard once he gets into the paint. And I think athletically, he really makes a huge impact on the game that, frankly, is understated in a lot of people's evaluations, which leads to one of his other best attributes, frankly, probably his best attribute as a prospect. He is a great two-way player. Not just a good two-way player, not just occasionally plays defense and blocks some shots. He is a great two-way player, which is not typical for a top prospect like this. Normally, we get excited about offense first because that's harder to find. It's harder to find guys that can be a focal point offensive player for you. And even guys that showed up and were good straight away in recent years, guys like Anthony Edwards, even someone like Brandon Miller, as prospects, we were very excited about what their offensive potential was going to be. We didn't really pay that much attention to their defense because you're drafting a guy in the top 2, top 3 to be your main offensive guy. Flagg, though, is an elite defensive playmaker with great instincts, and importantly, he cares about defense. You're not going to have to tell him when he gets to the NBA, hey, by the way, you're going to have to guard. You're going to have to teach him some things about NBA defense, but the effort level shows up on pretty much every play for him on both ends of the floor, which is extremely rare for a highly touted high school guy, a guy that is talented offensively, a guy that is a top prospect in the draft. The way that he competes on both ends of the floor is a special skill set given his level as a prospect, which frankly leads to people underestimating his offensive game. I think he's an underrated offensive player within this class. Again, he's not a Kevin Durant style guy that's going to make a ton of mid-range jumpers. He's not a LeBron or a Luka style guy that you're going to give the ball to for 70% of your possessions and just say he is an offense in himself. But he's going to be a shot creator. He's going to be a playmaker. He's going to do so many different things for you offensively, and he's only going to get better at those things. If you watch Cooper Flagg and you think, oh, I'm not overly impressed with his polish as an offensive player, remind yourself that he's doing all these things at just 18 years old, and he's already as good as he is at them. Right now, it's a lot of drives, it's a lot of pull-up twos, it's a lot of post-ups to try and use his size and score because that's what he can do best at the college level. But all the other stuff, I think he's going to get much better at. I think his scoring and his passing instincts are actually really good. He just hasn't fully developed them. Having said that, I don't think he's ever going to be a LeBron or a Luka style guy where you're just going to give him the ball 70% of the time. But I do think those skills are only growing to grow, and I think people are actually underestimating just how good those skills are. One of the biggest issues that he used to have as well was his jump shot. He wasn't as good of a shooter, and he's worked on that a ton, and it shows. And I think that's just another indicator of the fact that he's only going to get better at the stuff that he's only just kind of good at right now offensively. But that really is one of the only downsides for Flagg, is trying to find a way to include him offensively, especially if you don't have, another great offensive player on the team. Trying to find a way to get him to fit where he's not a great off-ball spacer as a shooter yet, and he isn't really a number one option kind of guy on offense yet. But again, he's still so young. I think they're going to figure it out. And I think at the NBA level, whatever team he goes to is not going to have a better offensive option more than likely. So he's going to get a ton of reps trying to become a better playmaker, creator, and shot maker. And in terms of what his NBA comparison is, I made this comparison at the beginning of the year, and I've only grown more confident in it. I think whoever drafts Cooper Flagg at first overall is essentially going to get what Jason Tatum has become in the NBA. Obviously, there's the Duke connection there, but there's so many similarities in their games, in my opinion. They both guard extremely well. They're very versatile. They can play a ton of positions. They can create some and punish mismatches in the post. They have great size and athleticism, but they're not a number one go-to offense all by themselves. Jason Tatum is a very good offensive player, and he's grown a ton as a shooter and as a playmaker, but everybody knows that he's not Luka, he's not LeBron, he's not Harden, he's not one of these guys you just give the ball to a bunch. He can play point guard for you. He can run a lot of ball screens for you, but the offense just isn't going to be as efficient. He's not an offense unto himself, and I don't think Flagg will ever get to that point either. And honestly, I think there are people watching this video that are going to think, wait, Jason Tatum's the comp. Like, that's kind of gross. I don't want that guy. Jason Tatum at worst right now is like a top 7 or 8 player in the league, and in a certain season coming up, potentially, depending on how things go, he could legitimately win an MVP. Like, he's making all NBA teams every single year. I understand that he might not be super flashy. The Celtics might not be everybody's favorite team. They have a bunch of great talent around him, and there are times where he doesn't play well, and they still win big time games, and they still win playoff games, even when he doesn't play well. But the point is, even when you look at the box score for Jason Tatum, he scores 20 points on 20 shots, doesn't shoot that well. He does so many other things on defense. He creates, he gets in the passing lanes, he defends fives, he plays the one on offense, and I think that's the kind of versatility and winning value added that Cooper Flagg is going to bring to the NBA level. And if you're getting that guy, even with the first overall pick, if you're getting a guy that has a chance to be a top 7, top 8 player in the entire league, a guy that's an NBA champion, a guy that in certain seasons could potentially push for an MVP, that is absolutely something to be excited about. And frankly, that's why I am as excited about Cooper Flagg as I have been about any prospect over the last couple of years. And I can't wait to see, now we know that he's going to the draft, what happens with him in the NBA.